So here's the thing. I'm not really much of an anime guy. I'm not a degenerate weeb, just a normal degenerate. But jokes aside, I've always kinda wanted to get into anime. I mean, I've seen some in the past. Dragon Ball, Sonic X, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Z Abridged, but I haven't really explored much beyond that. And while we joke about weebs and otakus, I would be crazy to judge an entire medium of film and television based on just some of the weirdos that do it. I mean, I'm a Sonic fan for fuck's sake, that'd just be downright hypocritical. There are tons of animes out there I could watch. One Piece, Berserk, Akira, Fullmetal Alchemist, Grave of the Fireflies, basically anything by Ghibli. Wonderful works of art that would not only further my understanding of anime as a medium, but also, perhaps in a small way, further my understanding of Japanese culture as a whole. I did not watch any of those.
Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions.
That's right, fuckers. Over the past few weeks, I've done nothing but watch Digimon and play Team Fortress 2. I have a limited amount of time on Earth, and I decided to use that time to watch a kids anime from the 90s, dubbed.
Finally, you're talking about a good show. I thought for sure you were going to bring me in here to talk about some stupid anime like 4Kids One Piece or Fighting Foodons, but no, I'm excited to be here and to talk about King of the Hill. Specifically, about how Dale Gribble's conspiracies are actually true.
Alright, Tosh, I'm gonna stop you there for a second. First of all, King of the Hill is not an anime.
What do you mean? King of the Hill is an anime.
Second of all, I didn't invite you here for a panel discussion or anything like that. You just broke into my green void again. And thirdly, I'm not talking about King of the Hill, I'm talking about Digimon.
Digimon? Seriously? The knockoff Pokemon for furries?
Well, yes, but actually no. While Digimon is very similar to Pokemon, its original incarnation was closer to a mix of Tamagotchi and Pokemon. Think of it sort of like a budget version of Pokemon, where you still got a cool monster that you could play with and battle your friends with, but it also looked like this. Hey, that's still better than some of the original Pokemon sprites. That being said, while Digimon was certainly trying to be its own thing, there's no doubt that it was also trying to take advantage of the Poke fever that infected the world in the late 90s and early 2000s. At the very least, in terms of franchises about characters collecting a bunch of tiny creatures in a magical world, it definitely deserves its silver medal placement. And like there's a lot of good competition out there. Speaking honestly though, I have had very little experience with Digimon. I never played any of the games, nor seen any of the shows. Hell, I have no idea why I even decided to watch Digimon. I was just sitting there one day, wasting my time until summer ends and I can go back to college, probably just playing Sonic 3 and Knuckles again, when suddenly the voice in the back of my head that normally tells me to burn things said, "Let's watch the original Digimon anime." Okay. And so off I went. Luckily for me, the first 4 seasons are on Hulu, subbed and dubbed. But what I found was shocking. Guys, if the only thing you've ever heard about Digimon is that it's a Pokemon ripoff and nothing else, you are in for something. This shit is so weird and crazy, I just had to talk about it. Then I realized I've recently decided to start making YouTube videos, so that's what I'm doing. Don't consider this a review, don't do that. I will be doing some critiquing, but this is mostly just me talking about the show and my thoughts on it. So that's enough backstory, let's talk about Digimon Adventure. Hey everyone, this is me from the future, just wrapping up editing, and I just want to say that I've been working on this for about a month, and you know, if you like it, like, comment, all that stuff, but really I just want you to share it with someone. Send it to someone, anyone who likes this. Send it to your friend, send it to your neighbors. Don't send it to your mom, I say a lot of swear words in this. Parents don't like swear words, so send it to your younger brother instead. Kids love swear words. But for real, I hope you like it, and also, obviously, spoilers ahead for Digimon Adventure 1999. Enjoy the video. The show starts where all great stories begin, summer camp. Apparently, climate change is worse than we thought because shit's just going crazy. It's snowing in the middle of August, it's flooding all over, crazy shit. Then we're introduced to our 7 main characters. Tai, the excitable young head of the group, Izzy, a computer nerd, Matt, the guy who's kind of a dick, his younger brother TK, Mimi, whose personality can best summarize as stereotypical girl.
Wow! Why didn't I pack my fluffy pink snow boots?
Joe, the best character and also a nerdy bitch, and finally Sora, the Other girl. I guess she's sorta tomboyish, but she doesn't really have that well-defined of a personality. The characters sound about like what you'd expect from a early 2000s anime dub for children.
It's creepy and dangerous. And what happens when it gets dark?
Who says it ever gets dark here?
That phenomenon would be unnatural.
And you call this natural?
Tokomon, there you are!
TK!
Alright, first things first. These character designs. You may look at them and think they're fine, and they are, but take a closer look. Notice how some of the characters are wearing more bright and vibrant colors, while others are wearing more muted colors. Some are wearing more exaggerated and anime-esque clothing, while others are wearing more realistic and standard clothing. Let's talk about character design. I do not know much about graphic design. I know, shocking, given my incredibly well-done avatar. But I do know that most franchises have a series of rules when it comes to designing characters. Let's take Sonic for example. Their rules include thin, noodly, rubber hose animation-style limbs, which jut out of a rounded torso, big expressive eyes, and a signature color scheme. If a character goes against some of these rules, they tend to look out of place in the lineup. Now let's look back to the main characters, and you kinda see my point. It seems like there weren't any really strong design rules beyond facial design and yaoi hands. Christ, we're not even gotten to the plot yet and I'm already complaining. Speaking of plot, suddenly the weather gets crazier as these 7 little Game Boy Advance type things fall from the sky and land in front of the 7 children.
What was it?
Meteors? Ah! Okay, so it's not meteors.
Having not seen Ben 10, because it didn't come out yet, they pick up the strange alien devices that fell from the sky, and suddenly they're whisked away into the digital world. That's right, people like me who didn't know shit about Digimon. Unlike Pokemon and the other Catch-em-all series, humans and Digimon don't live together. I believe the term is isekai or isekai anime, where the main characters are sucked into another world. But I digress. Once landing in the digital world, they're greeted by these little Pillsbury doughboys.
We're Digimon! Digital monsters!
Now, because this is going to be important for the rest of the show, let's take a minute here to just explain what Digivolution is. Unlike Pokemon, where evolution permanently changes your Pokemon for good, in Digimon, it works more like Super Saiyans for anyone who's seen Dragon Ball Z. They have their basic forms, but if they get powerful enough, then they can Digivolve up to the next level in the Digivolution chain. And if they're still powerful enough, they can go up another level. But eventually they'll run out of energy and are forced to return to their basic forms unless they willingly power down. Which is why, even though they're these little pillow puffs now, that's not their more standard form. Now, like I said, each kid, Tai, Matt, TK, Sora, Izzy, Mimi, and Joe, get assigned their own individual Digimon, which are Agumon, Gabumon, Patamon, Eomon, Tentomon, Palmon, and Gomamon respectively.
When you Digivolved, you certainly got way bigger. Does this mean you're something different now, or are you still Digimon?
Digimon? But I needed your help, Tai.
Me? For what?
You see, Digivolving is a very difficult process. In order to be successful, I had to share your energy.
Really?
Okay, so there's this meme on the internet that Digimon evolutions are kinda weird and wacky, and yeah, you can already see it. I mean, you go from these little Kirby enemies over here to a robotic ladybug or a bipedal swamp monster. Why does the plant Digimon digivolve into the bird and not the plant?
Devimon! Digivolve too! Gomamon!
Oh well, at least Gomamon makes sense. He kinda goes from a cool water dragon type thing to a bigger and more fluffy version of the same thing. However, I think that Patamon is my favorite right now, because while everyone else digivolves into a cool T-Rex or a pretty looking bird or who may be the best member of the team, Patamon goes from this dumpy little guy with horns to the same thing, but now he's orange and he's got wings instead of horns. Amazing. Also, a little thing I want to bring up, in case you haven't noticed yet, all of their names end in Mon. Not just the main Digimon, not just their Digivolutions. Literally every single Digimon is just something Mon. And man, you will hear the word Mon a fucking lot in this series. It's like I'm living in Jamaica or something. Anyways, let's just get used to it and move on. The kids find out that they're the, quote, Digi-destined, and by using the Digimon and those little GBAs called the Digivices, they can Digivolve their Digimon. You getting tired of hearing Digi yet? Don't worry, you're gonna hear a lot of it. Anyways, now they have to begin a search to find their way home while being hunted by the evil Devimon. Now if this plot sounds rather simple, That's because it is. On your hats, folks, it's gonna get weird in a bit. Each of the first few episodes follows a pretty standard formula. The kids are walking, a black gear shoots out of the sky and makes a Digimon evil, one of the Digimon digivolves, a small fight happens, and then they move on. Here's a more serious problem than the more jokey issues I've listed earlier. While the show is serialized, it has a very episodic-friendly premise. What I mean by that is that while these characters are constantly learning new things, and new things are happening in each episode that you need to see if you want to understand later events, the characters have no defined goal beyond somehow getting home. It's not like they're setting out to stop Devimon, they're just wandering around aimlessly. Devimon is not the big bad guy that they need to stop, it's just some annoying asshole that, if he disappeared, the kids wouldn't be getting any closer to their actual goal. Since nothing is really progressing the story, and the characters have no real aim or goal in mind, it just makes the plot feel like it's dragging because there's nothing actually happening for the most part. Near the end of the first arc, there's a bit of a filler where the kids get separated after the first of a couple of times where things get a little uncomfortable with these underage children.
I'm so relaxed in my whole life.
Devimon, you're not supposed to be over here! Get back to the boys' side!
But eventually, everyone is brought back together and surprise! Turns out Patamon is actually Magikarp because he digivolves into fucking Angemon. Which, yeah, now you can see the meme even more. Anyways, he then anticlimactically kills Devimon in one hit, dies, then gets reborn into an egg.
I'll come back again, if you want me to.
I think now is a good time to talk about dubbing. You see, when you dub a piece of media into a different language, it can be kinda tricky work. You can't just drop the script into Google Translate and then read it as is. That just wouldn't sound right. Not only do some words just not translate well from one language to another, in fact there are lots of Japanese words that just have no American equivalency. There's also slang words and colloquialisms and other objectionable content. After all, it's well known that Japan and America have different standards for what can be shown in children's media.
Shit!
In Japan, kids shows have swear words, drinking, sex jokes, because the age of consent in Japan is only 13, poop jokes, etc. So, occasionally, dubbers have to make some pretty big changes to make something that's okay for kids in Japan, okay for kids in America. This can lead to things like lesbians being turned into cousins in Sailor Moon, or
These donuts are great! Jelly-filled are my favorite! Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut!
But while most shows just change or censor things that most Americans at the time would object to seeing in a kids show, Digimon goes a bit beyond. You see, for some reason, this show just randomly throws jokes into scenes that clearly weren't supposed to have jokes. It almost feels like a child-friendly version of an abridged series where people take serious anime and cartoons and dub over them to make them comedies.
Guru, sir, we have another traveler from Earth.
Oh, tell me you didn't let him inside.
Hello, Mr. Guru.
Oh, god damn it.
I'm not saying that this is exactly what happened, but I just kinda get the feeling from it. Here, look for yourself.
Somebody's gotta be moving those belts, and people gotta eat. So is there a cafeteria in this place? Because we could really use a good meal.
You won't believe what happened to my favorite watch.
What?
The sun melted the numbers right off.
If this is a spooked out haunted house, would there be pictures of angels hanging on the walls? I don't think so.
Has anybody noticed? We talk a lot about food.
Because of a terrorist bombing.
Up, we'll get to that. But yeah, this show definitely got censored in some pretty strange ways. And we'll talk more about why the show suffers from this in the long run later. The next arc is about a monkey Elvis that tries to kill the Digidestined because fuck you, that's why.
Who's the king?
Told you this show was weird. Okay, there is a bit more to it than that. First, they meet a guy called Genai, who I misheard as Jedi for a bit, who explains that they need to find their crests.
We can digivolve even more?
But you'll need something special to do it. If you have the tags and crests, your Digimon will be able to digivolve even further.
Please tell us where we can find these tags and crests.
Well, the crests are scattered about. You can locate them all throughout the continent of Server. And the tags were secretly sealed away somewhere by Devimon.
And it's about now the lore starts to get a little wacky. Here's a summarization of the lore as far as we know it. The 7 Digidestined were summoned to the digital world, which is made up of data from the internet, but is also an unrelated planet since there's a history from long before the internet was a thing.
Even more incredible, in DigiWorld, basic data and simple information are a living, viable substance. It's alive!
the Digidestined are assigned certain Digimon that they have to train so that they can Digivolve so that they can defeat Devimon. The Digidestined are now supposed to gather their crests, which represent parts of their personality. The crests allow the Digimon to Digivolve again to be even stronger. And they need to gather these so that they can fight the next bad guy who shows up, not to be confused with the current bad guy, Etemon the Elvis Monkey. Also this.
No, we're just kilobytes of data too. I mean, the versions of us that are in here.
Where's the real us? Our flesh and blood bodies?
I don't know. I suppose we're back at the campground still. What are you thinking, Ty? We're in a video game? Nothing can happen to us because these aren't our real selves here?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, think again. Our digital selves are directly linked with our other selves back home. You need to be a lot more careful. No telling what may happen.
That is so confusing, does not make any sense, and is literally never addressed again. So I can only assume that it's another weird dubbing thing they made up.
まさか太一さん、データだからってゲームの登場人物みたいな気でいるんじゃないでしょうね。違うのか？全然違います。僕たちはここで生きているのと同じなんです。ここで死ねば本当に死ぬんですよ。
Anyways, so these kids get their crests. Courage, friendship, knowledge, sincerity, reliability, hope, and love. After an altercation with Devimon, Etemon gets sucked into a black hole, and Melgreymon kills him. Somehow, that causes Tai and Agumon to be sent to the human world. Just kinda happens. This may seem like a filler episode, and for the most part it is, but it does actually have some pretty important stuff for the plot. This includes introducing Tai's sister Kari, and revealing that Tai moves way faster in the digital world than in the human world.
This is the day the Digivices dropped into our hands, and this whole crazy adventure began.
Wait a minute. First Sora, now Kari? When's Riku showing up? Anyways, Tai goes back to the digital world, and this is gonna sound weird, but the show kinda starts to get better. Don't get me wrong, I was entertained since the first episode, no doubt, but the enjoyment kinda started to fade from ironic enjoyment to genuine enjoyment. Call it Stockholm Syndrome, I guess. Anyways, after a mini arc where the kids have to find each other again, with some nice thematic elements tying into their crests, the Digidestined are told that there's actually an 8th child in the human world, and now they have to find them before the new villain, Myotismon, finds the 8th child and kills them.
Myotismon has heard of the 8th child and will be going to Japan soon. He's gathering his forces as we speak. If he gets to the child first, both of our worlds will be doomed.
Luckily for them, the 8th child is also in Japan, and even the same city that they live in, so that makes it easy for them. This whole arc really improves in a number of areas. Firstly, the episodes become less generic and predictable. Yeah, they're still fighting a new Digimon every episode, but there is a notable difference. Unlike the first arc, where we're just kind of wandering around aimlessly, without much of a goal beyond just, we need to find our way home somehow. In the Myotismon arc, they actually have, get this, a set goal. A goal that they are constantly getting closer to achieving. That alone does wonders in making the story not only feel like it's actually progressing, but also makes it a bit more compelling. A bit more. Characters themselves are also fleshed out a bit more. I wouldn't say they're three-dimensional, but they're also not one-dimensional anymore either. So, two-dimensional, I guess. But seriously, there is an attempt made to give these characters a bit more depth. Joe isn't just a pushover because that's just who he is, it's because he has overbearing parents who are forcing him down a path in life he isn't really feeling. Izzy became addicted to computers not just because, but because he was trying to hide from the revelation that his parents are actually his aunt and uncle who adopted him after his real parents died in a car crash, Jesus Christ.
When you went off and left us there in hiding, your mother and I thought we might never see you again. So we talked and decided the time had come to tell you that we're not your real parents, Izzy.
I already know. I didn't mean to, but I just started drifting away from you a little more each day.
That's why you buried yourself in that computer.
That's right.
Matt and TK's parents are divorced, which explains why Matt is so protective of his little brother. And they even give a character arc to their mother about learning that her children are growing up. The mother of one of the main characters gets her own mini character arc. And it works. Now, not every character is given more depth. Sora and Tai are still just kinda there, but no one gets it worse than Mimi. Let's talk about Mimi. Poor Mimi. I didn't watch the subbed version. I'm not that much of an annoying dick. Until now. Hey everyone, this is Strongman from the future here, coming at you with a live news report. Basically, I'm just gonna cut it straight. As you can probably tell because of what happened earlier on in the video, I have now gone through the Japanese version of the show, because I don't want to be spreading false information about anything. As you've also seen, I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong about things like this. The following that you're about to hear about Mimi's character being rubbed in the dirt by American dubbers is 100% correct. But instead of rewriting and re-recording the whole thing, I've decided to just add this little addendum here before we get into it. So basically, when you watch what comes up, when you hear me say I think, just change it around to I know. Alright, back to the video. But just watching this, I can tell that Mimi just got rubbed in the dirt in the dubbing process. Remember how earlier I said that, yeah, this show definitely got censored in some pretty strange ways. And we'll talk more about why the show suffers from this in the long run later. Well, now it's later. Mimi's character arcs are just completely ruined because of how the dubbers focused on making her nothing but a gag. Mimi is supposed to hold the crest of sincerity, which is funny in hindsight because her entire personality is to just be a selfish ditzy valley girl who lives for buying clothing and getting her hair done and all that shit.
I don't miss school, but I do miss going on vacation.
I wonder what they make in there.
I don't know, but wouldn't it be great if there's a manufacturer's outlet store? They always have killer deals.
Come on, Mimi!
This is a little too extreme sports for me. Is there some way I can be airlifted onto the island? Sorry, I could have pretended you were my doll or a stuffed animal, I suppose. But I have a reputation for good taste to maintain. I'm in bad taste? This is more depressing than a soap opera.
It kind of ruins the moments where it's supposed to be sincere. Like, this scene was clearly supposed to be her actually being sweet to build up that she's supposed to have the crest of sincerity, but since it's just a joke, it just makes her look like an idiot.
Don't be so hard on yourself, although come to think of it, you really have made a super icky mess of things.
Thanks, Mimi.
Oh, don't mention it, Ty. I'm glad to help with a pep talk now and then.
Let's also look at the arc where everyone was split up, that I said had nice thematic tie-ins with their crests. You see, basically, everyone is going through some sort of cosmic test to see if they really deserve having their crests. TK, despite holding the crest of hope, has lost all hope since everyone split up and he thinks he's never going to see them again. Joe is being unreliable at the diner he works at, Sora feels like she isn't worthy of love because of the situation, and so on and so forth. These are supposed to be out-of-character moments for these guys. It's supposed to be them pushed to their absolute limit and nearing their breaking points, where they don't even resemble themselves anymore. It's supposed to feel good then when they do some grand gesture to prove that they are still worthy of their crests, with Joe being the one that's most pronounced, because this fucker attacks a Digimon head-on so his friends can escape. What a bro. Then we get to Mimi. Mimi is not acting out of character when we get to her. Throughout the show, she has been selfish, materialistic, and dumb. Here, she is selfish, materialistic, and dumb.
No, I'm not going. Huh? Why would I leave? I am a princess here. Besides, who knows if we'll ever find our way home, so I might as well live large and in charge.
And because of this, her arc just kind of feels a bit flat, because it doesn't make sense for this character, as we've seen her, to give up all this just because of one nightmare. Now, I'm very sure that they did not have this entire show planned out in Japan when they first started making it. It's more likely that this was Mimi's character and they just sort of built on top of it because they realized they could do something more interesting. But since the English dubbers didn't know that either and they decided to change her personality completely for a joke, it just kind of made her entire character suffer in the long run. And she stays like this until the plot literally forced them to make Mimi more emotional and sincere, which will be coming later. But speaking of character arcs, one of the main draws of the Myotismon Arc is Devimon's character arc, which I think is handled pretty well, honestly. Devimon is my favorite, by the way.
Sounds like something a furry would say.
Anyways, her introduction to the series is as Myotismon's right-hand man, a little kitty-cat bad guy. But when she finds Kari after Digimon launch a full-on invasion into the human world, she finds herself, strangely, unable to kill her.
Are you going already? But you'll come back again, right? Her sweetness makes me lose my edge, but I'll be back, and next time I'll be ready for her.
After talking with their friend Wizardmon, oh my god, these fucking names, they're able to unlock repressed memories in Devimon and realize that she was actually supposed to be the Digimon for the 8th Digidestined, who is, surprise, Kari. But since Kari never went to the digital world, Gatomon just kinda wandered the digital world lost and alone.
I was definitely waiting for someone. Ever since I was Nyaramon, I was so lonely. Every day I just kept waiting and waiting. The seasons changed and the years rolled by and still I kept waiting, but no one ever came.
Until finding Myotismon, who turned her to the evil side. It's not incredible or anything, and the voice acting is still...
Just leave me alone. Who sent you here, Myotismon?
Myotismon has nothing to do with this. I fight by your side, not his.
Kinda iffy. But it's well done for what it is. Doesn't hurt that Gatomon is fucking adorable. I mean, look at this little cake cat, aww. And you see what she looked like before she digivolved, and oh, she's just a little puppy. A puppy who gets fucking whipped with a fucking fire whip, Jesus Christ. Brutal. Fun fact, by the way, in the original LCD version of Digimon, Gatomon was actually called Tailmon. Apparently, there are some people out there that get really angry if people call this character Gatomon. That being said, I will continue to call her Gatomon anyways, so get fucked. Well, as I said, it turns out that Kari is the 8th Digidestined, and that Gatomon is her linked Digimon. After a few fights and Gatomon being captured by Myotismon, Kari decides to give herself up to Myotismon in hopes that it'll bring all this suffering and damage he's causing to an end.
It's me you want. I'm the 8th child. If you'll just stop hurting my friends, I'll come with you quietly, wherever you want. I'm ready. Hurry, man, stop her!
No, Kari! You don't know what you're doing! Kari!
This, obviously, doesn't work, and just causes Wizardmon's death.
You saved me. I'm sorry.
About what?
Sorry I got you involved in this.
I'm glad that you and I were friends.
Oh, that's forever.
Thank you for everything, Gatomon.
Aw. You know, for as dumb as this show can be, that was actually kinda sad. Whatever, he's dead. Anyways, Gatomon digivolves into Angelomon, which is the dumbest name yet. Then Myotismon dies. Except this boss has a final form, and then we get some dumb shit. Okay, first I did skip over something. We got a prophecy here, wherein it stated that
the sky will be darkened by the wings of many bats. The fallen people will invoke the name of the undead Digimon King, and when the clock strikes the hour of the beast, the undead king will reveal himself in his true form as the beast. Then angels will shoot arrows of hope and light at the loved ones of those they have been sent to protect, and a miracle will happen.
And hey, we got two angels, Angelmon and Angelomon. So when Myotismon comes back and they start losing the fight, it's figured out that the angels have to shoot Kari and TK's brothers, Tai and Matt. So they shoot them, and...
Agumon, warp Digivolve too!
What? What? So they shoot their arrows into Tai and Matt, then somehow that causes Agumon and Gabumon to warp Digivolve into their mega forms. I'm just gonna have to stay on this topic here for a second because that just doesn't make sense. Like, yeah, I get that it's supposed to be a miracle, but they keep doing warp Digivolutions throughout the rest of the series, so clearly this is like just a power of theirs that was unlocked. But like, how? How does shooting them unlock this power? Does the energy from the arrows flow through them and then flow into their Digimon? Did them getting put into mortal danger force Agumon and Gabumon to Digivolve to protect them? Well, no, because we learned earlier on in the series from Skull Greymon that if something like that happens, the Digivolution is corrupted and they make an uncontrollable monster. This is not really ever explained beyond this, it just kinda happens, as with a couple of things in this series now that I think about it. And hey, since these Digimon are digital, and therefore a machine, and these are acts of angel Digimon, I guess you can say this is a literal Deus Ex Machina. Allow me to digress for a moment, because the censoring in this arc is really weird and inconsistent, more so than the series has already been. Okay, so part of the story involves the kids trying to hitch a ride, and clearly they're supposed to be hitchhiking.
You kids want a cab?
Yeah!
You got any money?
No.
And the girls get them picked up by some weird, clearly kinda pedophilic guy. That reminds me, how old are these characters? 4th grade? Mimi, the character that everyone is fawning over and all that, is only in the 4th grade? She's like 9 then, maybe barely into double digits. That's low even for Japan! Anyways, yeah. So clearly they don't want to depict hitchhiking because they don't want kids to imitate it. So they just added a few lines about this weird pervert being Sora's cousin.
Hey, Sora, I think your cousin's a major lame-o.
He's sort of the black sheep of the family, but he's giving us a lift, so be nice.
But since he's still kind of weird pervert to her and Mimi, that just kind of makes it weirder. So clearly they're willing to change dialogue around to make things more kid-friendly and to appeal to censors. Understandable.
His whole family packed up and left Heighton View Terrace because of a terrorist bombing.
Okay, technically it was not an actual terrorist bombing. It was a Digimon battle that the police said was a terrorist bombing because, obviously, they wouldn't assume it's a giant monster attack. But I don't figure that out until later. It's just kind of weird that they didn't cut this out for a kid's show, even a more violent one like this one. And actually, it turns out they did, because there are some versions that I found that don't have this scene and just cut it right out.
No, I didn't know Izzy back then, but I did see what happened.
I guess this may have been the part that aired after 9/11, but before that, they cut out hitchhiking, but they left in terrorism. Like, it's just weird that they say terrorists specifically. Like, for me, that's just a weird thing to hear on kids' TV. But hey, that's just another thing that keeps this show so weird. It's so inconsistent about what they keep in and what they censor out. They just straight up show a guy lighting a cigarette on children's TV. They could have easily cut around it.
TK, I was so afraid I'd never see you again. You must have been terrified, TK.
And no, unlike the terrorist thing, this was not cut out in future versions. Anyway, so after defeating Myotismon, the sky is suddenly covered by these little strips of the digital world. After remembering how fast time moves in the digital world compared to the real world, and that they've been in the real world for a few days now, years have probably passed in the digital world, and shit's probably pretty fucked up.
Just a minute. We've been back in the real world for only a few days, but up there, time is much faster. Years and years have passed by.
And since we left the Digi-World when it was such a mess, it had years and years to just get worse. I can only imagine what the place looks like now.
Realizing that they have to save the digital world, the main characters, now joined by Kari and Gatomon, use their Digivices to return and set things right. Once back in the digital world, they find a big mountain called Spiral Mountain, which is made up of all the digital world's oceans, forests, cities, and ruins, and they're ruled over by the 4 evil Dark Masters, Myotismon, Puppetmon, Machinedramon, and Piedmon respectively. I love that they called the clown character Piedmon. Speaking of names, can we finally address the weird naming conventions here? I mean, ignoring the annoying fact that every Digimon's name ends in Mon, the first parts of their names are just kinda dumb and inconsistent as well. So like, some of them are clearly just untranslated from their Japanese names, like Ikakumon. Then we have Digimon whose names are sorta punny, like Piedmon. Then there are others that are just what they are, Mon, like Puppetmon and Wizardmon. And then there's shit like Gatomon. For those unaware, Gato is the Spanish word for cat. So it's like they want to call her Catmon, but realize, that's kinda dumb, let's make it Spanish. Which is weird in itself, because as I said, they already changed her name from Tailmon. Anyways, after defeating Myotismon, Mimi suddenly cares about all the Digimon that are dying.
Mimi? What are you doing? In case you haven't noticed, some of our friends are gone.
Oh, sorry.
That one is to remember Wizardmon. The one next to it is for Piximon. That one's Chumon. And this one here is for Waymon.
And Matt gets tricked by the Great Deku Tree to try and kill Tai or some shit.
This is insane! Matt, what's going on? Is this some kind of joke?
Matt, I don't know what he's doing, but call him off now! No, Tai. I won't.
After this little debacle, the team pulls a Fellowship of the Ring and disbands, with Matt going off on his own, Mimi and Joe going off on their own, and the rest going forward to kill the rest of the Dark Masters. Something I'm gonna give the final arc is that it seems like they're trying to retroactively give more depth to one-off characters from earlier on in the series. Ogremon is the biggest example. In the first arc, he was just kind of a generic evil Digimon who had a grudge with Leomon, but here, after being treated by Mimi and Joe, they actually ask him why he hates Leomon so much, and damn it, it results in a kind of interesting conversation.
He and I are like 2 old warriors, fighting a war that had no beginning and has no end. Why, the only reason I exist at all is to defeat Leomon, and if he were gone, well, I'm so confused.
You've got to have more of a purpose in life than to just defeat Leomon.
Leave me alone. You can't possibly understand. This rivalry is as old as time itself.
It actually kind of hits harder when later on, Leomon and Ogremon are forced to team up to protect the kids from a returning Etemon, and Ogremon is forced to watch his only meaning for existing die in front of him.
You're a good rival.
After that, Joe decides to go off and rejoin the group, while Mimi, Palmon, and Ogremon go off to recruit as many Digimon as possible for the final battle. Another pretty cool moment is Puppetmon's death. He's carrying around this little X on his back, and he kinda uses it as a weapon every now and then, and when Matt makes a grand return and finishes him off... Sick. I mean, come on, turning his weapon into his tombstone? That's a cool idea. Of course, the dub then sucks out all the coolness.
Cherrymon, what is it that those kids have that I don't?
Friends! Let's see here. After that, they go into a city, and Machinedramon is there. It's revealed that Ty almost killed his sister, Jesus Christ.
What could you have been thinking? You knew she was sick!
She ended up with pneumonia or something. She almost didn't make it.
And then this wonderful line happens.
He shot my paw!
Come on, that's silly. Anyways, Machinedramon dies, and before you know it, the team, minus Mimi, is back together and ready to fight Piedmon. And then everyone dies. No, really, Piedmon basically kills every member of the Digidestined and their Digimon by turning them into these little keychains. Basically, the only ones who survive are Angemon, TK, and Kari. And even they're literally seconds away from death before.
Angemon Digivolve 2!
Oh shit! Did I just say that? Anyways, yeah, Angemon digivolves into Magna Angemon. Jesus Christ, these names are getting even more absurd. He frees the rest of the Digidestined, and the final battle is about to begin when suddenly Mimi returns with an army of Digimon to help the fight. And it's anticlimactic. The army just kinda dies easily, and then Piedmon is sucked into the Gate of Destiny and dies. Except, surprise, it turns out that there actually was one more secret bad guy that they have to finish off. Apocalypse. This badass looking...
Why do all of you get the pizza while I get the crust?
This cool looking Digimon who is the amalgamation of all the Digimon who have died. So, Digimon die or not? I know I've been saying dead and killed and all of that throughout the video, but that's just me using the words that make the most sense given the story they're telling. This show has been massively inconsistent about whether or not death is even a thing in this world or not. Okay, so first Angemon and Devimon die. Angemon gets reincarnated, and that can be interpreted as him just coming back because he's TK's Digimon, and it's some when you wish upon a star type nonsense. Then, when Etemon dies, we don't really get confirmation of what happened there until later when we hear he's been sent to a different dimension or something like that.
After that, I was swallowed up by a black hole. I think I gave it indigestion.
Then, when these two Digimon die, they also get sent to a different dimension.
You had your chance. Now I'm condemning you to my dungeon in the Digiworld.
So we're following the rules of the original Dragon Ball Z dub here and sending dead people to the next dimension.
And he sent Kui to another dimension.
But then, Wizardmon dies. And while they don't say the word death, they kinda just dance around it by saying things like, oh, don't go.
Wizardmon, you're gonna be alright. Please don't leave. Wizardmon.
But like, it's clear he does die. I mean, this is even confirmed in the sequel series where he comes back as a ghost. But then, Leomon drops this on us.
Leomon, please don't leave us. We depend on you.
You have no reason to worry. I must go now and rejuvenate myself at the primary village.
So does every Digimon reincarnate? Devimon didn't reincarnate. Wizardmon doesn't reincarnate. Why does Leomon get this special treatment? And if we're assuming that he's not special, and reincarnation isn't just a thing for the Digidestined's Digimon, every Digimon gets reincarnated. But then we get here and...
You see, I was created from all that was lost during the digivolving process.
What do you mean by lost?
Digimon have been digivolving for many years now, over and over again. But there were some who weren't up to the challenge and simply disappeared.
Well, what the fuck does that mean? So clearly he's made up of, for lack of a better term, the souls of Digimon that died during Digivolution. And then Izzy's like,
That makes sense. Even on Earth, some species became extinct during the process of evolution.
but that doesn't make any sense. Anyone who has a basic understanding of evolution in our world will understand that evolution and digilution are completely different things. And on top of that, if you want to say like, oh, Digimon die when they digivolve when they don't have enough energy. We already know what happens when Digimon digivolve before they're ready. When Tai jumps in front of a Digimon to force Greymon to digivolve to save him, he becomes the corrupted Digimon Skull Greymon, and surprise, Agumon doesn't fucking die. So if Digimon don't die, and Digilution doesn't cause death, either doesn't work or leads them to being corrupted for a bit, then what the fuck is this guy made of? Like, I'm sure that these Digimon are supposed to be dying, but they had to change that because kids shows in America don't show or talk about death unless it's the Clone Wars. And I'm not really saying that's a bad thing, mind you, but if you're gonna pretend that death isn't real for your show, at least stay consistent, and for God's sakes, don't make the final boss made up of the souls of dead people. That's the most annoying part. They could have easily changed it to make this guy anything, but they—
Let's stay calm, everyone! Don't fall to pieces!
Too late! Oh shit. Kids are dead. No, seriously, they're in like some white void and not even really moving. They're just kinda there. However, using the power of the crests that they hold in their heart, they force themselves and their Digimon back to life, and get all their Digimon to digivolve into their ultimate forms. Anyways, after a quick battle, Apoclymon dies, but decides to pull a kamikaze and reveal that in his death, he will cause an explosion that will envelop them all. Just then, the Digivices spring to life and create a box that stops the explosion from killing all of them. And the world reforms and everything is alright in the digital world.
It means that the Digiworld will start over from the beginning.
What's happening down there?
The Digiworld is being reborn, as are all the Digimon from the past. We're gonna need a lot of diapers.
However, it's not the happiest of endings, as it's revealed that the children need to leave the digital world, for good, as the portal between worlds is closing. To make things worse, they can't bring their Digimon with them.
Actually, when Apoclymon appeared, the flow of time here and in your world became synchronized.
So, then we still have 4 weeks left, right?
That's plenty of time to have fun.
Well, actually, you only have the 2 hours, because once the portal is closed, it's closed forever.
But...
Sorry, it's time to say goodbye.
Everyone starts saying their goodbyes, and man, I'm not gonna say I cried for 3 days or anything like that, but I'm also not gonna say that I was entirely unmoved. Maybe just because I watched the whole series through relatively quickly, but I couldn't help but get a little emotional at the ending, especially with Gatomon and Gabumon's goodbyes.
That says it all. I wouldn't mind hearing you play your harmonica one last time.
Glad to.
Aw, that's just sad. Well, I'd hate to ruin the sentimentals and all, but why can't they bring their Digimon with them? It's not like Digimon can't exist or live in the human world. In fact, we have a whole goddamn arc about Digimon coming to the human world and trying to take it over. They don't give an explanation, they just say they can't. But the show ends with the Digidestined and their Digimon tearfully waving goodbye as the children return to their lives. So now that it's all said and done, what do I think of this show? I think the best way to put it is that it's like a show made by children, and I mean that in the best possible way. It's weird and confusing at times, but also fun and energetic and honestly really charming. I enjoyed my time watching it. Even if it wasn't great, it was still entertaining. At least it has an ending, Pokemon. Well, yes, there were definitely some character issues and weird dub choices. I think that ultimately it just helped make the show more interesting to me. It was like trying to piece together this puzzle of why this show is the way it is. And even beyond that, I really like a lot of the concepts here, both in terms of storytelling and possible gameplay. There's a lot of potential here, and while it doesn't quite reach it, it really tickled my brain with possibilities. And apparently I'm not alone. This show was a smash hit in both America and Japan, leading to a sequel series coming out almost immediately after the original. And trust me, I will eventually talk about this show because Oh boy, do I have a lot to say about Digimon Adventures 02. However, at the end of the day, I really want to check out more of the series, so I guess the show did what it set out to do, and you can say that Digimon has a new fan. So yeah, that was the thing.